That's perfect.
What's your...
Well, hello there. My name is HW. Thank you so much for watching Tone Jiggy TV. This year, 2023 NAMM, I had the distinct privilege of sitting down with one of my favorite people in the gear industry, Christoph Kemper. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's a gifted engineer and a unique mind and a pretty cool and funny dude. He was kind enough to share with me about 5 new things that came out for the Kemper. Maybe you heard about them: liquid profiling, USB audio, and some other things, Marketplace among them. But you haven't seen this interview in its entirety. So here is the full interview. I think there's some cool stuff in here about history of the Kemper, how it gets started, guitar player psychology, and just some cool moments, some interesting takes on tone. Without further ado, here's a full interview with Christoph Kemper.
12, 15 years ago, you're thinking up this idea, a very different idea, of instead of sitting down and making models that look or feel like it, let's copy the sound of a rig you already have. You like your sound? Let's copy that. When did you come up with that idea?
It was
12,
I
15?
think that started. Yeah, it was around 2006. Actually, when I made some tests and like trying. I was back in those days like trying to make a digital guitar amp because I wanted to try out how difficult that is, and a lot of that work was like talking to people, talking to guitarists, and see like how they perceive amps, and especially like digital amps, like the modeling amps of that time. And I think that was the most interesting part, because the thing was, at first sight, it was not the technique itself, in my point of view, but it was the acceptance of of a digital guitar amp in a way, and the acceptance was not that high.
No.
We back in these days we have had our synthesizer line, the Axis Virus, and we started with synthesizers around the same time. That was like in the middle of the 90s, like 10 years before that, when the modeling amps also were like sort of invented.
Early ones,
right? Like the early ones. And I was always watching that scene because it always interested me, like as an engineer, right? It always interested me, like how this is working with like distortion and all that stuff. And I was really interested in that. So I was always watching that. And well, year after year, it became clear that this scene is not really taking off. We were taking off with the Axis Virus. We had like great customers, big stars. We had like fantastic stories of having an Axis Virus up on this stage and up on that stage. It was so much fun, and you never saw these like modeling amps up there on stage.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I thought like this is. It was an anomaly in a way. It was a bit strange.
They weren't professional solutions. They didn't feel like that. It felt more like, I don't think they were viewed as professional solutions or something, you know?
And there you are. They were not viewed as professional solutions, and this is not that's not a technical issue.
Yeah, right.
That was my point. And my point was like, why are they not viewed as a professional solution? Why why don't people feel attracted to that? Right? Like even, well, it could, I mean, if professionals don't get attracted, well, it could be like the home players could be more, and of course they were more attracted, but no, like in long term, nobody really spoke good about them.
Yeah. Right.
In a way. And I thought like, okay, why is that? Okay, and my background is I'm not a guitarist. So I couldn't like, I didn't have the taste like to check it out and find out about the differences. So I came a bit from the outside world and watching all that.
That's interesting because guitar players are maybe noted for slow adoption of new ideas. 15 years ago, the idea of let's copy the sound of a rig, it seems like a popular idea now.
Yes.
Seems like other people have come to your way of thinking.
That's true.
that this is a good method
Yeah.
for getting.
And what became popular before was the capturing of impulse responses.
Yeah.
That even came after us, right?
Yeah, you're right.
People have, or the industry, in a way, haven't adopted that, even though the technique was in the world.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
It came out when we did Profile.
It's an older technology. The IR, the
IR is an old
convolution.
technique.
Yeah.
In a
it's
way,
not-
actually, probably it has been invented like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Like the theory of that, and
Yeah.
it just had to be
Just now.
applicable. Yeah.
It's just like a slow creep of guitar adoption. First, it starts with like Strymon. Maybe it's okay if I put away my analog delay. The analog emulation is so good, I won't miss my analog delay. So first you have digital on your board, and then slowly it's like, maybe the IR can just replace my speaker cabinet, and some digital emulation. And then eventually now it seems to me like there's very little bias against emulation of a tube amp,
But yes, there is.
Well, there is.
Like in our world, right? Or maybe especially in your world, there's not that bias anymore. But that's probably that's one bubble.
Yes.
And I think there's still that other bubble of
Sure.
traditional tube amp players.
I find it depends on who has to carry the amp.
Yeah, but I sometimes have the opposite observation that players that carry their stuff on their own, that have to take it on their own, they're more traditional.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true.
Yeah, but we have like with the Profiler, we have a high adoption in professional guitar players that go on tour, especially on like not the biggest tours, but it's also the biggest tours because the technicians and the whole management they really appreciate equipment that is easier to maintain, easier to carry, yes, easier to ship, easier to put on an airplane, and also easier to play because the sound stays the same when you go to another continent and bring your stuff, or if you rent things there, you can rely on the point that you have the same sound, and just bring a USB stick like a DJ.
Yeah, easy. What's your opinion like? Obviously, the amount of like digital solutions and the type of them, modeling, profiling, capturing, tone matching, and AI, machine learning, hardware, pedals, VSTs. Where do you see all this going? Because I think something that some people don't realize about this unit is how much of the UI is to help a tube amp player understand where they are, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the knobs on the front, you can see your entire signal chain. You don't really have to menu dive. You don't have to go deep in the menus and find things. It's all right there for you.
Yes.
And that's because it's for that tube amp adoption, right? You're trying to get people to.
Yeah, in a way, but I would even say that this user interface is so much targeted for or better targeted than other user interfaces for like really handling the amp. I think it's on face to face high level.
What do you think in 10 years guitar players look like? Like we talked about having, there's still bubbles there's no hesitancy to digital solutions, but there's other bubbles that are. Where in 10 years, what does the market look like? Half, 70-30?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have always believed that there will always be a market for tube amps.
Sure.
Especially for boutique amps, because it's so nice to have them. It's a different situation where you want to play them. It's a different look.
Yeah.
I mean, like in the early days, people approached us and said, "Why can't this look like a traditional amp?" And we thought, well, yeah, I mean it could, but maybe it's a bit stupid to do that. It's a bit like would look like a hot rod probably.
Yeah, right.
And so I mean, yeah, the look changes, and I mean, look is also important, right? So
It is.
this will not come back. And if you want to look like a traditional guitar player with a boutique amp, you will take a boutique amp.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to play vinyl, you take a record player, not something that looks like a record player, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And that
Right.
I think that will stay.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you think?
But I couldn't estimate like the ratios,
Sure.
like 50
Where we're
50
going?
or 60 30 or
Yeah.
60 30 is good,
Yeah.
right?
But it's easier. Yeah, 60/30. But it's easier now, right, to convince a player than it was.
It is always, it's like this tipping point. It's always easier to convince someone of something that his friends already do, right? If they do it already, it's like,
Yeah.
there's like more recommendations, and yeah, and then it works like that.
Yeah.
And if nobody does it, it's hard to recommend to someone. Then you need like the real early adapters that are brave,
Yeah.
and not doing what their neighbor does. And no, of course, that has changed.
Yeah.
That has changed for sure.
So a ton of support over the years, new features, being added and stuff. And what's the future of digital, profiling? What is the future of?
I think yeah, the quality will become better.
Yeah.
This is even for us. I don't have news for that today.
Yeah.
But of course there will be a progression.
Yeah.
And but what we have done in the last many years was not like improving the amp.
Sure.
People were talking about effects. They wanted more and more effects, because where you said when it's like goes gradually from the effect board up to a digital amp.
Yeah.
Here it was different. People switched to the digital amp right away, and then so he could also substitute most of the pedal board. And this is what people were calling us till today.
Yeah.
So effects are very important.
An entire solution altogether. Yeah. But we've seen the addition of the entire Kemper cone, all speaker imprints, all of those things added much later,
Yes.
So the advantage of being able to add more features. So what's the next feature?
First thing is pretty small. We have in our Mac and PC editor, you can control the profiling just from the desktop, and not having to operate that on the unit.
Sure.
That's a small thing. Then we have one nice thing. We have a Profilermaker Marketplace.
Interesting.
Right, that is embedded in the rig manager, and you can browse through all the rig makers that we cooperate with.
Yes, tell me more. I'd like to know more about this.
So yeah, the cooperation is that we do not involve ourselves too much into that, and let the third parties do their work, because.
But this is integrated into the software.
Yes, it's integrated into the rig manager.
Yeah.
And so you have like some rigs for free as a teaser.
Yes.
That we were given by those third-party makers. So you can check them out, and there's like a little story of the maker, and there's also a link, and that is like part of the marketplace. Like by the link, you go directly to the shop of the maker, and you can see more content and more news and all that stuff. And to be true, it was just nearly like that even before, but it was more like let's say closed system where we presented the makers, but now you can go straight to their shops.
Yeah.
And the third is that many of you might know that we had our editor for iOS and iPad. iPad OS is called, right?
Yeah, iOS.
And we now have it on Android. So let's see here. Oh, look. Oh, it had connected even.
Yeah.
So yeah. we just had some connection problems because we started everything. So we have our editor on Android and also on the tablet. And the nice thing about those Android tablets, there's quite economic ones out there like this.
Yeah.
That I've
very
seen
affordable,
you can get for like less than $100.
Yeah, less than a Kemper bag.
I didn't say. Yeah, less than a camper bag.
Yeah.
And that's a nice thing. So these iPads they can't do so many good things. Like probably you can't play games on that.
Right.
I guess you can watch videos on that, but games would be slow. But for the editor, it's just fine.
Yeah.
You know, and so you can have your dedicated tablet just for the editor if anyone needs that. So Android, mobile, wireless, of course.
And the big one.
And the big one?
Oh, what is it?
No, yeah, I mean, no. So we have, as a next feature, we have USB audio. So the Profiler is a USB audio interface and highly recommendable for especially recording guitars because we have our guitar input, like the analog part of the guitar input is very high quality. We have a signal to noise ratio of roughly 127 decibel.
Is that a better solution than SPDIF going forward? Because that seems to be very popular.
No, it is. It will sound the same, but SPDIF is sometimes a bit more cumbersome. You need more cables. You need to. You have to take care about the sample rate that it's all the same, stuff like that. So that goes straight, and we have a little command center on the display where you can, so you don't have to like repatch all the USB connections for DI and recording and reamping.
Yes.
This is partially done on the Profiler, so you can there's like a recording mode, a reamping mode. You can switch on and off direct monitoring, which is very important. Stuff like that. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we have that.
Yeah.
And that's it's really fun.
Yeah.
Because the analog electronic is so good, and I'm using the Profiler now for my recreational music listening.
Right.
Because it sounds different. Than some other. Well, of course, cheaper audio interfaces. They're not that good, and that's the fourth thing, and. Last but not least.
Well, I'll tell you, the number one gripe I hear of from a lot of people is, hey, the EQ on my amp is different than the EQ on anything, right?
Yeah. So you're pretending to know what I'm going to say.
I'm trying to lead you. Well, I do know. Go ahead.
So yeah, the big news is something we call the liquid profile. And what that is, it's the perfect marriage of modeling and profiling, or profiling modeling.
Yeah.
And in the past, everyone had this, little problem to decide maybe between the modeling technique or the profiling technique or whatever, capturing.
Yes.
And I think everyone wished to have both at the same time without any drawbacks.
Sure.
Right? And that's what we made.
Yeah.
So how that
on this unit?
Yes, on this unit. Right. And of course on the Profiler stage.
Yeah, of course, so on the existing units.
No, yes, on the existing units, yes.
Yeah,
this will be available as a free software update, as always.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, I mean, USB audio also will be available as a free software update.
So tell me about the liquid profiling. How do you know what the EQ in the amp sounds like when you profile the amp? How does the Kemper...
The trick is that it doesn't need to know that, and it should not know that. Because by not knowing, by the profile, but I just say the profile, by the profile not knowing it, the profile is general. right? You put on top of the profile, you add a model to that of a specific amp. And this model should know about like how the controls where you put the gain, where you put your tone stack, like the equalizer.
Yeah.
And by that, it will calculate the sound for the profile. And if, for example, you haven't touched any control yet, and you add the model to the profile, it will not change the sound whatsoever because it's not supposed to.
Right.
Right? And that's very important. It's not like adding a model and it changes the sound. Like at first place, it won't change the sound because you haven't moved the controls away from their original positions. If you haven't changed the gain from what it was profiled, it wouldn't change the sound.
Yeah.
But when you change the gain, for example, it will do exactly what the original amp would have done with the same alteration.
Interesting.
That's the trick.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's modeling on top of profiling.
Right.
And so,
and there's a little patent on that.
there's a little what?
Patent on that.
Okay.
So
So you apply that modeled EQ over even existing profiles that we've
Yes.
already created.
yes.
But this changes the profiling process in terms of maybe the workflow or
Well, yeah, it adds something to the process. It doesn't change the process. It simply adds things to the process. If you don't want to do it, like if you're not going to make a liquid profile, then
Yeah.
everything stays the same. If you're going for a liquid profile, then you will be asked to set the like the position of for example, the position of the original gain of your reference amp to that same knob position. Just if it's on 4 or if it's on 7, you set it there to the same value.
yeah.
And this is even possible for a model that is not existing yet. So you might have an amp where you might have an original tube amp where we have not a model yet made.
Right. For that tone stack.
For that tone stack and for that gain control and everything. So you can still do this settings and use those afterwards. If we have, by software update, have that model, maybe like half a year later,
Sure.
then you can add it by software and then you can instantiate it
Right.
for that profile that you have made half a year ago.
Does this include so I could also apply tone stacks to amps that maybe didn't have that tone stack?
Yes, you can. You can also, of course,
Right,
fool
and
the
find
system.
out. Yeah.
And we definitely allow that because it's fun and
It is fun. It would be fun.
You could take any profile. Okay, you can also, just to say that, you can also have profiles elevated to a liquid profile that are like 8 years old.
Yes.
You can do that. If you don't, it's maybe a bit of a problem. If you don't memorize the original settings, then it might not get too authentic because you can't recall the authentic settings, but you might know what the settings are. And often enough, you know your sweet spots, and you know even from the past how you made that. So you can burn in these controls and then go from that position.
So what tone stacks are going to be available?
So at the moment we have like it's roughly 40
40?
40 channels. It's not 40 amps, but 40 channels.
Okay, right.
Of a lot of amps.
Normal,
right?
vibrato.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they all come with tone stacks and the associated gain control and the associated presence control, if any. Right. And that comes as a model that is like called by that model, and you add it to that. And usually that's the weird thing. If you add it at first place, and if you haven't touched any control yet on the profile, it wouldn't change the sound.
Sure.
Because it would go from there.
So cut control on a Vox,
Yes.
I can apply it to my
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes. If that makes any sense, and it doesn't make sense.
It
But
should-
if you like,
I mean,
if you, if you like to do that, yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Have you tried it?
Yes. Yes, I have. Actually, of course I have.
Well,
because,
how's a cut control sound
because
on a Marshall?
when I
Yeah.
developed that,
Yeah.
I wasn't. It was not necessary for me to have an authentic Vox profile to check out the cut control.
Right.
I had just some profile and check the cut control.
Right.
And of course, what we did for evaluating it, of course, we had a real Vox amp,
Sure.
and we profiled it, and then we tried the cut control because
Yeah.
it had to sound identical.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, we did that also, but to do other adjustments and stuff, it was not necessary to care about the profile at that very moment.
Yes.
Right.
You said it copies the gain control as well.
Yes.
How is that different than the way the gain control operates now?
Yeah, the gain control. There's the very famous and so-called bright cap. This is just a capacitor. It's, just like a cheap capacitor on the gain control part.
Yeah.
And they have been utilized since pretty much the beginning of tube amps. And what they do is they thin out the sound when you turn down the gain, right?
Sometimes people popularly go in and remove a bright cap.
Yes,
So will be
because
popular
there's some
modification on
amps like the Marshall Plexi that had varying bright caps, and some of these were very large, having a much too large impact, thinning out the sound too much. And sometimes I think it's like better than like just snapping it off would be to apply another bright cap.
Well, there
that's
are
not that hefty.
Yeah, there are whole models of Marshalls that the primary difference are those values, right? Of just a few caps.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But I think even like on the Plexi or the JCM 100, they change it all over.
Yeah, all over.
And it might have been random. That's what I read.
Whatever they had that day, right?
That's what the internet says.
Yes.
At least to me.
The internet's always correct.
And
so.
but this the liquid profile simulates that bright cap.
Yeah.
As a modeler should do.
Yes.
Right. And but does it on your profile.
Interesting.
This is why the liquid profile has to know at what position that thing was profiled, because then it goes from there.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
That's a technique, and that's I think that's a very very nice thing, and maybe a next step in for digital guitar amps. That nice marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the number one thing I hear.
Oh yeah.
That
for sure.
That desire for.
Yeah. I was eager to present that.
Yeah.
Since quite a long time.
Yeah. 40 channel models.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
That's it for now. Right. And I think there's more to come. In theory, we could do a random number.
Sure.
Right. Like it's like that part is like modeling. It's like a modeling amp thing, but it's a very small part. Oh, also to mention that part that we have modeled is just a small fraction of the amp, because we didn't want to model an amp, because then we had a modeling amp, and this is a profiler, not a modeling amp,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And we did not want to model the distortion stage and things like that, and of course not the cabinet. We just wanted to model just what you have in your hands, which is not too much, which is nice. It's
Sure.
the gain control, it's bass, middle, treble, presence, we have like some channels that go for the bright, as you said, for the bright channel, not the bright channel. But this is not, it is something that you have in your hands by selecting the channels, right? But this is it, and this is so, it's so small in a way, and it's not difficult to be authentic with these small things.
Does
right?
this do away with much of the criticism that if I begin to move controls on the Kemper, it's inaccurate? And that's somehow bad.
Yeah. I thought sometimes this criticism was maybe a bit exaggerated.
Yes,
but
it is.
I had full respect for that.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, that is it.
It is exaggerated, because I will see people who profile a twin clean, and then they'll put the gain all the way on top and see it sounds different, which is quite
But okay, that doesn't work.
Yes.
Right, that
Yes.
doesn't work. But sometimes I thought like, okay, you have to profile with more gain,
Mm-hmm.
so the profiler can hear much more of the sound of the
Yes,
reference
yeah.
amp, right? And then when you bring it down, then it matters like if the bright cap comes into place or not.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I have never really understood the idea of the bright cap that was originally invented because it's variable. Why having a thinner sound when I turn down the gain? Why have a thicker sound into distortion when I turn up the gain?
Yeah.
Because sometimes the opposite could also make sense.
It could also make
But
sense.
I'm not here to judge
Yeah.
tube amps.
Well,
That's how they were made.
You know, they're very early designs too, and there's only a few designs, and they all get sort of copied and changed, copied and changed, copied and changed, and things
Yeah, that's right.
stay over. You want to know a secret?
Sir?
Yeah, I said, you want to know a secret?
I said you want to know?
No, do you want to know a secret?
Yes. No.
And I should not say this, but this is, I routinely, for the reasons you kind of just said about things getting thinner and thicker, you know, will not turn amps up to 10 because they sound better at 8. And then with the profiler, I will increase the gain and create a new profile because the bass stays tighter. So if you have a tone junkie profile, I would say almost all of them are done like this.
Yeah.
Where most amps do not sound their best all the way up, and I will then increase the gain to get more, and it's better. I mean, I've tested, profile an amp on 8, up the gain, it just sounds tighter, kind of sweeter than, diming everything.
Yes.
Now sometimes I do,
And that's true.
but-
And this is why we had, since day one, we have this definition control.
Yes.
The definition control is, in a way, a bright cap control.
Yeah.
But that doesn't vary with the gain.
Yeah. What does it do?
It does a bright cap, in a way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't vary with
Yeah.
the gain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
this is pretty much what it does. It takes, I mean, we can talk a bit theory about that. It takes the bass from the guitar,
Yeah.
right? Like the bass frequencies, and when something goes into a distortion with less bass frequency, it'll distort nicer.
Yes.
This is not even.
No, everybody
This is not
does-
about a guitar.
Yes.
This is a bass.
Yes.
Even a mixing. If you want to distort a bass drum.
And all the modded Marshalls
Yeah.
of the 80s are
Right.
dumping bass, Friedman amp dumping bass. You can you can look at the circuit and see the
Yes.
succession of
So
dumping
cutting
bass
the
before.
bass, or for that reason, there's also like effects like the treble booster out there.
Yes.
And also, this is why all overdrive pedals sound nice because they cut the bass. The main, I'd say, overdrive pedals. Well, they all sound quite similar, right?
Sure.
They all have quite
They all sound like a tube screamer.
in a way, yes. I mean, there's nice variations about that, but they follow that direction.
Yes.
And the purpose on them is they cut the bass, and they have a tone control, and they have a very large boost through their distortion into the next amp.
Yeah.
Nice devices.
And that's why
for that.
you were able to make the Kemper drive.
Yeah, that
sort
is
of
it. Yeah,
this is all of these.
This is how the
sounds.
Kemper drive happened. It was also that I talked to you on one occasion on the trade
You put all
show.
my favorite pedals in. It was
Yes.
great.
Yeah,
it was the best.
But look, your favorite pedals was favorites of everyone.
Yeah, right. It's true. That's
Was
true.
not just you.
That's true.
All right. Yeah, we got them all, and I made comparisons of these, and we also look at the circuits, schematics.
Yes.
And there were many similarities and of course differences.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought like the similarities, they're so big that, well, I didn't want to make like 17 overdrive pedals and tell the people you need 17 of these and they're all different and you have
Right.
to, which they're not. I like the story more to say, well, there's so many similarities there, and we want to present you the similarities so you get a bit wiser.
Yeah.
And we give you the differences by like, it's 2 knobs only. Like it's like 2 additional controls. And then you can even make your own. Then you can do what they did with a I don't King of Tone, whatever.
Blues breaker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And you can adjust it by hand by just two controls and see if you can get a better tone for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, that's what we've done. I simply didn't like the idea to have like 17 models and say that's the world, like that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it silly that we have like a box like this that can do so much more than you can do with an analog tube amp in terms of like the definition control?
Yes.
You get control over parameters that in the analog world it would be exceedingly difficult to control that parameter. You can add compression in, independently of gain, is it silly that guitar players keep sort of the more options they get, clarity, these things you've built in, independent control over sag? Like, is it silly that we keep wanting to go back to like authenticity and maybe less control?
Yeah, it is silly, yes.
It is.
But there's sometimes two sides of that story. I think you would go for authenticity.
Yeah, sure.
To know where you are, and then if you feel good and safe because you're in that authentic world, then you look for more.
Sure.
And so in a way, I think we have to deliver both.
Yeah.
Right. First authenticity, and then more.
And then optionality,
Yeah.
And so much of creativity comes out of like limitation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Of course.
Sure.
Of course.
But sometimes it's nice having all those tools at your disposal.
I mean, my philosophy to that was a bit that there was users that have wished for. I think when we just had the tube screamer as an overdrive, they
green
asked for like more like equalizing features to the tube screamer and the direct mix.
Yes.
I think that was user request, and I said no. I don't think I thought like, no, this is not right. If I go and model a tube screamer, then it should be a tube screamer and not like getting more arms and eyes and stuff. Then it should be a tube screamer, or other way. I decide to do something totally new that maybe has never been there, and then I feel free. So that is this two sides of that same thing. Like either be authentic, but then don't soften it, or being totally new and creative.
That's sort of, I think, the bipolar disorder of guitar players. They want a very authentic tube screamer, and also every option that you could add on.
Yeah,
every.
But I think it's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, we had to learn to handle it. Like from the philosophy, but I think, and
that's
it's a nice thing to do.
That's where my mind goes with the addition of this model tone stack that can be burned into a profile. Is that where we're burned? Because then there's the option to get combinations that don't exist. So I can hear my, deluxe reverb with, maybe I can switch out a cabinet to something else and have a cut control and see or how can I boost, maybe I can put in a Marshall tone stack and get more high mid-range on my Vox where I don't have control of that at all, and maybe there's great things inside it.
But still this is not, I'd say like adding the wrong tone stack or another tone, not the wrong, right? Another tone stack to the wrong profile. This is not breaking the authenticity.
Right.
This is just I would say it's like a more low-level mashup of two authentic things.
Right.
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 To be, I would always recommend it when it is about tone stacks, for example, and stuff like that. I would always try to use equalizers after the amp.
Yes.
Equalizers before the amp, starting with the definition control, because this is ways where you can like really shape your tone, right? And this is I'm not seeing too many guitarists doing that, like using especially equalizers before the amp. And like with the profile, you can't do that. You don't have to like purchase another pedal that induces noise.
In a way, the EQ control before an amp is pickups, tone, pot right. These are all the ways that we have affected EQ.
Yeah, but
going
it could be
into
more.
it could be
right?
more. It could
I
be
mean,
way more.
I mean, the tone control the tone control on the guitar, it cuts the high frequencies.
Yeah.
But as we just discussed, it's much more attractive
Yeah.
to cut the low frequencies of the
But
guitar.
isn't the whole-
But there's no control.
Yeah. Isn't the whole market
That would be a great control on the guitar to have that definition control on the
Right.
guitar.
well, maybe that's a product idea for you.
Yeah. Now we're making guitars.
Yeah, right. isn't the whole market for like PAF replicas just slightly different?
What? I'm sorry, what record?
Isn't the whole market for PAF pickup replicas like Gibson humbucker
Okay.
market? Isn't it all just slightly different EQ control on the same? Slightly different. This pickup has a little brighter. This pickup's a little more in the search for.
Probably yes, but I have to admit
Authenticity.
I'm not really too much into that topic, so I can't answer. But
Sure.
probably that is the case.
Yeah.
That's about
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
maybe not.
maybe not.
Maybe it's about also about the distance to the string. Position, all that stuff, that also I think plays a role because there's a location thing with the pickup, maybe even inside.
Yeah.
But this is just guessing.
Right.
No expert.
Yeah. I won't tell. When does Kemper 2 come out?
Yeah. Maybe never.
Maybe never.
Maybe never.
But can I say something?
Look, maybe we just stay with that
Forever.
and do keyboards again. How about that? What do you say?
that could work.
We do keyboards again.